In this demonstration, we're going to be showing how to thicken a liquid with roux. In this instance, the liquid that we are thickening is the braising liquid from braised pork. Braised pork will be another demonstration, but just to give you a quick recap, this is pork shoulder that we have cut into large dices, seasoned with salt, pepper, seared on the flat top, covered with chicken stock, covered with aluminum foil, and cooked in the oven for 3.5 hours. Now we have strained the liquid from the pork, and we want to thicken it so we can put it back on the pork with a nice thick nappe. A nappe is the thickness of a sauce, soup, or a soup. The nappe is determined by how well it coats the back of a spoon. For instance, this chicken stock, when I dip it in and run my finger across the spoon, I can see that the liquid runs over where I swiped rather quickly. This is a thin nappe. A medium nappe is whenever I dip the spoon in, swipe my finger, and it might very slowly drip down across the area that I swiped. A thick nappe is when you swipe and the sauce will not move at all. We are going for a medium to thick nappe. Before we add the roux, we want the stock to come up to a simmer or boil. This will help activate the roux. Once we add the roux, we want to stir, make sure it's well incorporated, that there are no lumps, and we also want to cook it, the roux, with the stock for about 5 to 10 minutes. This will assure that the rawness of the flour is cooked out and we do not have a raw flour taste. Flavor agents will be fresh rosemary. A lid will help it to come to a simmer quicker. I am eyeballing the roux, but you might want to use a recipe. You can always add more, but it gets a little trickier if you add too much, because you will have to add more braising liquid or broth. You might not have any on hand, which then you would have to add water, which would dilute the flavor. So remember, when adding a thickening agent, that you can always add more and to add small amounts at a time. At this point, I turn my heat to low. Here we have a thin nappe. This is good for an au jus, perhaps. Au jus are usually little to no thickening agent. I always like a little thickening agent because it helps the sauce coat to whatever it is that you're eating, which means that you get the flavor in your mouth and in your belly. It's what we want. A little bit more. Here we have a nice medium nappe. In a thick nappe, we would add another spoonful. I'm going to stop here as this is the desired consistency that I would like for my pork gravy. I'll cook this out for another 5 minutes to cook out the rawness of the flour. And then I'll check my seasonings for salt and pepper. Pork gravy thickened with blonde roux.